You are listening to the web's number one choice in spiritual growth and development. This is Heart Over Ego Radio, a network of shows to provide you with healing and guidance to improve the quality of your life. Check us out on Sundays with the Everyday Psychic Show. Mondays is the Alchemy Sisters. Tuesdays, Radical Spirituality. Wednesdays is Know Thyself. Thursdays, Transcending Love. Fridays, Rain Radio. This is Heart Over Ego Radio. Check us out on the web at facebook.com and Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, and welcome to Radical Spirituality. Do I have you, Mandee?
You do. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Apparently, we're having some technical difficulties already.
That's okay. You know, Skype sometimes does that. It's the strangest thing. But, hey, we're here. We've got a backup. It's all good.
I know. I was like, so do you want me to add you? Or, I mean, because I can do this myself. I'll just be like, hey, Ben, call in.
I'm just waiting around, sitting here. I got up early. I'm all ready. I was looking up, some information for our discussion tonight. And I'm like, where's Crystal? And then you messaged me. And it all worked out because it's 2019 and we have amazing technology.
Sometimes we have amazing technology. I just feel like I'm not as technologically savvy as everybody else sometimes. And I'm like, computers. Mostly because I have an energy that just doesn't like to work around anything electronic. So I feel like sometimes it's me. I'll just put it out there that way. So
I think I'm there with you. Like, especially when I do readings, lights blink all the time and things interfere. And like tonight, just getting set up for our call, I'm all signed into my Skype, and we have our Heart Over Ego Skype too, and that one works fine. And I think I'm wondering if they switched up my accounts or something, but I'll worry about that a little later.
I feel like that's all we can do. Whatever. It's a long time no talk to. I'm super excited to be here with you tonight.
I'm excited to be here with you, too. And for all of our listeners just tuning in to Crystal and I here on Heart Over Ego, I love holding this space. I love this show. Crystal is absolutely amazing. And you just got a new, fresh space, too, to probably invite some new clients to soon, right?
I did. And it's funny because I feel like, you teach. And I feel like sometimes our clients don't understand that we also are human. And I'm for spirit. If you've ever seen like the memes on Facebook where your guides are drinking or they're just like laying on something like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? I feel like I put my guides through that a lot because we teach so much and spirit teaches through us so much. Like if things happen, it happens for a reason, and not to resist it, because the more you resist, the more problems there are. And but sometimes the things that happen to us, we don't necessarily like. We're not always on board with some of those things. And we're like, hey, I don't think so. Now's not the right time for that. But they're like, yes, it is. So last week, to kind of fill in the story, last week I was told that I had to move out of my space because one of the people in the office building didn't like my sage. So long story short, my landlord came to me and said, hey, by Monday you need to be out of there. So I had I was dealing with a death cold. I've taken 2 antibiotics. I've been so sick. And then on top of that, I also had to renovate a space. And thankfully, I have Ben, who really stepped up and helped so much. And I'm so grateful for him, because if not for him, it would not have been done. But it actually ended up being, I sat there and I'm looking at this space and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful that you guys forced me out of this space, because I like the one that I have now better, and it is larger. And so I will be able to actually do more stuff and hold more space there. And even eventually, I think that the waiting room area that I'm going to be channeling in at first, I actually think that I'm going to be using that as a meditation space for people who just need to come in and kind of rebalance their energy, and just let people come in and sit in the space and listen to some meditation music. If that's something that they need to do. I feel like it's going to be a really cool space, though. So I'm grateful, but I'm a brat, and I'm not always grateful in the moment. So we all have to learn to not resist.
We're all merely human, sister.
I've learned so much actually through being on the show with you and through talking with Jenny and getting outside of my own comfort zone. It's kind of like, I'm in this space over here and people I don't think fully understand. I'm sure there's a lot of awesome healers in Michigan. It's just I have not yet come into contact with them that are at a different level than me. And so, like, if you're going to reach out and grow, you have to find somebody who's a step ahead of where you are, a couple steps ahead of where you are. And you and Jenny definitely have helped me reach that next step for where I need to be. And so it's kind of like if we came together, there was a reason for it. And I'm grateful Spirit did everything they did. So here we are.
It never fails. It never fails. And that new space, sometimes the universe does give us a little push before we're ready because even though it's a bigger and different space, you can hold that space and you're going to hold a beautiful healing community in it. You know what? In the sage is funny. People don't like the smell of it when they have their own insecurities, their own imperfections they're working on, and it's got a very, very pungent, very distinct smell. And there's if you look up a lot of different cultures and regions in the world, people who don't necessarily like the smell of it, often it's a sign that there's just some healing or some imbalance to be done. And it sounds like for you, it literally, cleansed you in a place that wasn't going to vibrate with you and put you in a place that's going to be even better. Man, I wish I was close by you. I would come and host a women's circle there to help you welcome the space.
Oh, that would be so awesome. And there's so much room for it. And it's just it's really cool because essentially I'm the only person in the building. It's a storage space. The whole entire building, it kind of looks creepy from the outside, but they've turned it into a storage unit. So essentially I'm the only person in there. So there's really nobody that can mess with me. And I'm like, I want to get some drumming circles in here and do some stuff to raise the vibrations of the space. And it's just, I can see it doing major things going forward. So I'm pretty excited about it now. I literally painted the wall sage because I was like, come on, I'm going to do this. And Spirit was like, heck yeah, do that. So I did. I was like, yes.
I love it. I love it. And it's going to happen and it's going to be great. And, and this is for everyone out there who's listening too. Sometimes we just got to roll with what the universe is providing. And sometimes even if we're not comfortable with it or if it's not what we wanted at that time, it's to line us up for even bigger and better things on our path. But when you do what Crystal did and you don't resist and you say, okay, this isn't what I want to deal with, but let's just, embrace it and do our best with it, then all of a sudden you start getting blessed with gifts. So I'm excited to see what kind of gifts that space brings you, and you being so easy and open to moving and switching and embracing it is going to reward you greatly.
Awesome sauce. Well, I hope so. I hope Spirit from God's mouth to yours. That's what I'm going to say about that. So nobody really knows how we do this, I don't think. You guys, you guys know, listeners, you know that there's Heart Over Ego, and they have different shows every single night. And I don't think y'all know that I'm a fly by the seat of my pants type lady. And so I literally wait until Spirit gives me something to talk about. And last night, I think, was when I came up with the narcissist idea. And it literally came from a post on Facebook. So tonight we're going to be talking about narcissistic behavior. And Mandee was like, oh, yes, because she wants to address the narcissist and the empath, which is a wonderful topic for any of you empaths, which 9 times out of 10 you are. And I kind of wanted to address some of those things that Spirit gave to me when talking about narcissistic behavior because, one, I'm not Dr. Phil. I don't proclaim to be. I know nothing about healing at all other than what Spirit has gifted me through myself and through clients. But there has been an awful lot of healing that has happened through myself and clients in my own life, and I like to talk about that because I think it's pertinent to everybody else and what they've specifically gone through or what you're going through now. And I feel like when we're in a space of ugliness and we don't see that way out, I think that when you have people who are being honest and truthfully, I don't claim to be anything that is a spiritual guru. I am not Buddha by any sense of the means. I am all over the place. But I feel like when you talk about the reality behind the struggle of healing and what that looks like, people understand that a little bit more. And I feel like right now for a society as a whole, I think it's very important to kind of address this because people have taken the word narcissist and used it for everything that they possibly can to put blame on other people. And I see it all the time. Somebody's relationship fails and they talk about how they're a narcissist, or they post these memes on Facebook because they have a fight with somebody and they're like, oh, they're a narcissist. And I'm like, okay, so are we throwing that word around a little bit too much? It seems a little bit scapegoaty to me, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And yes, there are very relevant things behind that mental trait. And I am going to say a mental trait because I do feel like that's a mental disorder that we all tend to carry at one point in time in our lives. I feel like based on what Spirit has told me, every one of us has narcissistic traits. And so understanding your own narcissism is pertinent to your healing and moving forward, and also being honest with yourself about what you did in the relationships that you have around you. And, you know, also hand in hand, Spirit says all the time, you know, when you have a problem with everybody around you, you have to take a step back and realize the only common denominator is you. And so if you have an issue, or people are constantly approaching you and you have issues with this or this, you know, at some point we have to be realistic in our approach and say, well, the only person in this is me. And so if everybody has a problem with me, or I have a problem with everybody, the problem is you. And you're the one that needs the healing, not everybody else. And Spirit does a great job of pointing that out to us. And I don't know how you've experienced healing for you, because it's different for all of us. The Spirit has really done a great job at teaching me not to point the finger at everybody else. And part of that goes hand in hand with what this topic is today. So what do you think about that?
I think I completely agree. And I think it's funny because I think you're right. You know, narcissist, definitely that word gets thrown around, and it's gotten very catchy and very popular over the last decade as we're all starting to step into mental health. I love to follow Dr. Christiane Northrup's work, and, you know, she suggests that there might actually be about 20% of the population who are, you know, truly actually narcissistic, you know, and a narcissist is someone who is basically just very self-centered or has an exaggerated sense of self-importance or entitlement, often without a lot of empathy for other people. So I think we've all done that, just like you said. And, you know, with this whole spiritual movement and, you know, leaning more towards self-love and sovereignty and independence, I think that it's really easy for anyone to have narcissistic moments. In fact, I think it can be healthy at times. And I really love that we're going to open up the idea that people can absorb narcissistic qualities in reaction to what kind of conditioning or programming they were exposed to as a child, basically. You know, if you grew up with narcissistic parents and maybe they weren't aware of it, they were just trying to do their best and learning from their parents and so on and so forth, you know, but we automatically often pick up those same similar defense mechanisms or things like that. And it was something I noticed in myself when I was like 19. I was like, wow, I'm really manipulative. Like, I'm lying quite a bit, like, you know, and I'm, you know, it's like normal too, because you're like a teenager and whatever. And it was like stupid shit, like, oh, you know, going out, you know, saying like, oh, I'm babysitting tonight, but really I was going to a party, like things like that. And it would just like roll off my tongue. And I'm like, wow, like I'm a bad person. I'm a liar. And it's like easy to lie. And like, I remember having this, because I was always a little more in tune with myself, and like having this like philosophical conversation with myself as I was driving. I totally remember the drive and everything. It was in Vermont, and it was beautiful, and it had just snowed, and I was on my way to Killington, Vermont to go get a snowboard instructor certification. And I remember, like, I had lied the night before about something. And I remember being like, I just don't like that part of myself. And where did I learn this from and why? And then I sat with it for a while. And it wasn't until a couple of years later I really realized where it came from and how and why, because I had, you know, parents and grandparents who had these tendencies, and I absorbed them as defense mechanisms. And once I was able to just realize it and acknowledge it and sit with it, that's where the healing occurred for me, because I was able to release it and say, oh, well, I want to break that pattern, and I just want to feel better to myself and to others and live in more integrity. So I want to heal and release that quality of me. And I wasn't afraid to look at the shadow and say, oh, wow, like I'm kind of an asshole. Like, what can I do to fix that?
See, yes. And I think, like, yes, everything that you just said, yes, so much too, Because I feel like what people don't fully understand about being an empath is that you're an absorber, you're a sponge, and so you absorb, you're a chameleon. And so you literally switch and change and suck in different personality traits, and it's not your fault. It's not the people who are teaching you this stuff. And the reason why I say it's not their fault is because every single one of us are on different levels of growth and understanding. And so when you talk about parents, I really think that it's so important, like you said, to not blame the people that we came from, because they're doing the very best that they can with what they know. And in my personal setting, I'm going to say first and foremost, I don't know much about my dad and his upbringing, because he's never given that to me. But when it comes to my mom, I do know a whole lot about her upbringing, and she had a horrible upbringing. I mean, I'm going to tell you, that woman is kind of a warrior, and I feel like she needs to see herself as a warrior spirit, even though, she wasn't exactly there for me the way that I needed her in all moments of my life. She was there the way that she needed to be there, okay? And I'm truly grateful for all of those aspects, and I'm also grateful for the negative aspects, because that helped me grow. But with that being said, when you see somebody who came from such a horrible upbringing, take and stop half of the cycles in their life, you can't help but look back at that and say, holy shit, that woman dropped so much. And she truly was, I don't know, I can't say it any other way. I truly feel like she was a warrior in herself, because she took so many toxic patterns herself, and learned how to deal with them. And she did the best that she could in that. And so it's every generation has to step outside of themselves and heal a little bit more. And so it's really easy when I have my mom who's in my life, who helps me speak and talk and get to know her in a different way today than what I did when I myself was a horrible, hurtful person. And when I say that, I mean that because I took it, like you acknowledged that you lied a little bit, but you were always in tune. I was the complete opposite. I was not in tune. I was completely unbalanced in my life for the first 28 years. And that led me to being the manipulator. That led me to being somebody who was extremely narcissistic. And I am going to say, if you look up a narcissist and you look up what that actual meaning is, I will tell you that I was that. Pertinent on paper, that's exactly what I was. I hurt people to gain attention for myself. And so it took a whole lot of myself learning and growing and really taking a step back and saying, whoa, Crystal, this isn't about you. Nothing right now is about you. You really have to learn how to look at situations in a very different light. And that's about yourself. I can't blame other people for how I act. So essentially, I can't blame my parents for how I'm choosing to act in the moment. I can't say, well, my mom did this to me or my dad did this to me, and so therefore 20 years in the future, I'm still acting in these hurtful ways and, lying and manipulating and causing pain for other people. You can't do that because they're not a part of that situation anymore. Yes, the baggage that you still carry from some of those things might still be affecting you emotionally, but that's where that trauma and that healing kind of come hand in hand. And that's where you're supposed to be looking in that reflection mirror and saying, okay, what do I need to get to the dirty depths of my soul and figure out how to pull that up to the surface and deal with it. And so when I had to start dealing with it, it came with my second marriage. And this guy, I'm going to tell you, we were married for only 3.5 years. Actually, we were married for 4 years, but we were only together for 3.5 years. He was a horrible person, and I'm going to say he was a horrible person, but I also am going to tell you as an empath, I saw nothing but great things for him. There's two different versions of yourself when you're an empathic person and a human being, and you have to allow yourself to see both sides. But he was a liar. He was a manipulator. His family treated me so bad. Their sole purpose on earth really was to tear down my business. They were Catholic. They hated everything about me. They hated everything about what I did. And when they could no longer control me because I'm my own person, that's when they chose to turn it around on me, and they started attacking me within my community. And they still do. And so I had to actually step back within my healing. And this was at the biggest place in my healing. And I'm going to tell you, this was hard. So
yeah,
sitting
girl,
there at a dinner
you walked
table,
through that fire.
Sitting at a dinner table and having his mom call me out on stuff I really don't like hypocritical stuff. I don't like the hypocrite in a person when they're calling me out for doing the exact same thing. And I have a really hard time sometimes keeping my mouth shut. I'm just going to be honest here. And so she's sitting here and she's calling me out at a Christmas dinner that I had prepared. in front of everybody. And I sat there in that moment, and Spirit guided me to listen, to see, to not talk. And in that moment, I sat back in my chair and I looked at her, and I'm going to tell you all sorts of evil was running through my head. I'm not even going to lie to you guys, okay? I'm sitting here trying to come up with the next thing to come out of my mouth. And in that moment, Spirit says, but wait. But wait. And you know what I saw? I saw myself. And that was the first moment that I sat there and was like, holy shit, I just saw myself sitting in that chair. And if I would have responded, if I would have acted on, if I would have been, then one, I wouldn't have been learning. I wouldn't have been open to learning. And I never said anything. I just looked at her and I agreed with her. I said, yes, you were exactly right. That's all I said to her. I said, you are exactly right. It wasn't condescending what I said and how I said it. I really meant what I said in that moment. Yes, you are exactly right. Because she was right. And I didn't want to hear her being right because I wanted to blame her and have her be part of the problem. And even though she was, because every relationship issue is 50-50, there is no her versus me or me versus somebody else. We have to get to that state of being where we can see that. You know, and so if you constantly bring these people into your life to cause this harm, then what part of you is bringing that into your life? What is your reflection that's adding this to your table? If you never stop, listen, and take a moment within yourself to reflect, then you're never going to truly see what it is that you're asking the universe to provide for you in that narcissism. And so I literally, for 28 years of my life, was begging Spirit, begging the universe to bring a narcissist to me so I could heal and become a better person for 28 years. And I'm not fully great. I'm not wonderful. I still have my days. I still catch myself when somebody's talking about themselves and I'm like, oh yeah, and then I'm like, Crystal, pull yourself back, because this is a conversation about them. This is about their moment. This is about what they went through. And you may have had a similar moment, but it's not about you. Life is not about me. This life is made up of so many people and so many problems and so many ins and outs and emotions and different things, and it's not about me. And so we need to really learn to approach life in a way that doesn't make it all about ourselves all the time. But on the flip side, you mentioned something also that's so wonderful. There are such good things out of narcissism when you do it for self-love. And so to hold space for yourself when you're an empath that's used to giving and giving and giving and everybody takes, in part of that healing, you also have to step up and say no sometimes and be selfish for yourself. And other people are going to be like, oh, you're a narcissist, because that's that word that they like to throw around, and you're going to feel bad and you're going to take that on. And it's so important to look at that and say, okay, well, you know what, if that's what you see, fine, but I'm doing this out of love for myself. And out of 29 years of my life, I haven't loved myself. This is the first time. And so if you're going to punish me for being in love with myself finally for the first time, then so be it. Then that's on you. That's not on me. And so there's a scale of justice here that we kind of have to acknowledge in our lives, and we have to understand what part of the scale we're on when we're doing things and why we're doing it. And that's part of the healing process.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree. I actually have a list of narcissistic qualities in front of me because I wanted to get really clear on that before our discussion tonight. And one of them is being preoccupied with fantasies about success, power, brilliance, beauty, or the perfect mate. And it's funny because I think any human tries to dream of that. And if you start, watching The Secret or falling into the law of attraction and saying, you know what, I do deserve success. I do deserve to be smart. I do deserve a perfect partner for me. Anyone could argue that's technically narcissistic. I think that, it becomes narcissistic when it's, blatantly not caring about other people and how they feel. At the same time, I encourage my clients to make decisions based on what their heart wants most and not what anyone else thinks or might think, because it's often for the highest good of everyone. Sometimes the highest good doesn't always feel the best, but it is, for the highest good, just like Crystal described in that, Christmas dinner where she, sat mirrored to herself. And that's, I think, too, you so beautifully segued into how empaths, and empathic people often get involved in relationships with narcissists because they need that mirror to help them stand in their personal worthiness and their personal power. And they need someone sometimes to trigger that into them, because if we are meant to very much be of service, and this life isn't about us, but at the same time, we're meant to serve ourselves and others. And we so often forget ourselves. And that's where we kind of border this whole, sometimes people are a little bit of both, and like the attraction between them may be more dominant narcissistic person and then more dominant empathic person, because the empath, as powerful and amazing as they are, often have some wounds of self-love and worthiness that need to be mirrored so that they can call back in and fight for themselves.
Yes. Okay, so we actually have a caller. You cool with taking callers, Mandee?
Sure.
Awesome. So I'm actually going to take a tool from, I've been listening to you, and I love how you introduce the callers, so I'm actually going to start stealing that from you because it makes so much more sense.
You go, girl.
So, we have area code 860. Hello, area code 860. How are you tonight?
Hi, how are you? I have an intuitive question. Can I ask?
Yes, you sure can.
I like what you're talking about empaths. I just have a comment. It's so true. I didn't even know as a kid. I was feeling everything, feeling everybody else's stuff, and I'm like, why do I feel so heavy? Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, we take it all on. We absorb it. And we're all just magnets and subtle energy. But, I'm glad you called in, because it's a good tool that you and our listeners can do. I like to practice shielding. I ask my angels to surround me in white and blue light and protect my biomagnetic energetic field, which is about 6 feet out around us. Whether I'm going to take care of my mean, nasty grandmother, or I'm going into a grocery store, or I'm holding space for a client, whatever it is, good or bad, I like to try to protect my energy, and it makes a huge difference.
Absolutely, and definitely tapping into your heart. That's the best thing you can do. That's what I do. Is just, if I forget to do that, what you just explained, which I do, and sometimes I just forget. So I just try to fill myself up with the best, most abundant, lovable pink love, and that helps within itself for sure. Whatever works.
Oh, I love that. Exactly. I love that. And it's about the refocusing. When we're focusing on the thing that's causing us pain or anxiety or overwhelm, then we're just feeding that energy. If we can take a couple breaths and focus on love or gratitude or protection, whatever it is, it makes all the difference. Our minds are very powerful, and that's where a lot of this magic is created.
Absolutely. We are our own manifestors, and it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. I don't know. I'm sure you guys can feel. I just feel so amazing. I feel I've done so much work, and I know it never ends. And I just was wondering if you see me in a relationship, because I just would love to share something with somebody.
I'm going to tell you, it's so funny because I don't usually do relationship stuff, but I have your guides over here, and I do love your energy. Seriously, you have the most wonderful energy. You are such a fairy to me, and the fairies, I just love them. So what they're doing is they're giving you claps. So please, when they say yes, yes, they are actually bringing somebody into you, and I'm actually going to let Mandee take over after I do my spiel, just because I don't get what she gets usually, but they're making me feel like within the next 6 months, actually, you're going to be pulling somebody to you because you've done a lot of self-work, and they're making me feel like your self-work was a little bit similar to mine, in the sense that you took the time to heal your own patterns and your own traits to pull in the right person so you could be the right spouse. And I'm going to tell you, hats off to you for taking that time and doing that for yourself, because it's almost like you did things in a way that never focused on the negativity behind other people. Instead, you looked at yourself in a way that said, okay, I want to be this mirror, and this is the mirror that I want reflected back at me. And so they're actually giving you lots of love to yourself, and not only with an actual partner in crime, I guess is how they're giving this, because you really like adventure, and they're making me feel like who they're going to be bringing into you is going to be full of that adventure and that self-growth spirit. Please know and understand that they're also making me feel like they're trying to bring in a tribe for you as well. And so you also have people that they're going to be pulling into the mix that can be companions, friends, and other people to help you also, grow your tribe around you. So I think they're going to be bringing in quite a few people. And Mandee, I'm going to let you take it away, sister.
Oh, wow, you're fast.
What was your first name again?
Oh, yes,
my
name
Crystal.
is Amla. It's Amla.
Oh, sorry.
It's Amla?
Amla. Perfect.
Yes.
Awesome, Amla. Yeah, your cards were coming in strong for me, too. I mostly work with the angels, and I'm hearing from the angels first. First of all, they want to confirm and let you know you are a very old soul. If you've moved a lot or if you consider that, it's okay because there's never going to be quite a place that feels fully at home because you are, like Crystal said, very much, elemental and fairy and an older soul, and you're part of the original light workers. So they're just coming in to say thank you for being here. If you never fully feel totally at home, but you always try to make your best wherever you're at, it makes complete and divine sense because you're such an old soul and you've held space in so many corners of this world, let alone the universe. Secondly, they're showing some more boundaries being set your way. They're confirming you've been doing that and continue to do that because it's going to help. If you do like to dance or connect with music, that is another really nice way that they like you to shake out energy, and they like to pass messages to you. So if it's been a little while since you've danced with yourself or anything or put on some music, go ahead and do that. Your soul's been calling you to make some changes, and right now they want you to just kind of sit a little tight and listen to what your soul and your heart are calling you towards. You are finally at a state where you're feeling really balanced, and you've done all this shadow work, and you've cut out all these things that are toxic to your life and are no longer serving you. And they're showing the same for me. They're showing in the next about 6 months, a partner kind of showing up, probably 4 to 7 months, somewhere in there, but around 6 months. But they're showing you finding your balance first. They're showing this fall taking some time by yourself, maybe feeling a little hermit-like, and that's okay. And then you're growing more money, or you don't know if you have your own business or you're thinking about it, but they're showing all kinds of pentacles. You pulled the 9 of Pentacles and the 8 of Pentacles and then the Page of Pentacles, maybe adding in another modality to your tool belt, that kind of thing. And then in about 6 months, you pull the Queen of Pentacles paired with the King of Cups. Well, do you mind if I ask what it is you do for work?
Oh, that's interesting. I just wrote a book, and it's going to be out in a week.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I don't know if you can hear me. I'm clapping for you. I just love your energy. I don't know who you are, but you are just the funnest little spirit. I just love you.
Oh, thank you.
And I think there's going to be some potential for some income from that because they're showing it slowly coming, and then in about 6 months, really feeling solid financially.
Wow, awesome. That makes complete sense because I've been speaking for the last 5-6 years. I kind of did it backwards, and the book is really helping me in so many ways, and that's what we're talking about, boundaries, and even just creating this beautiful piece of art, as I like to call it, because it's creation. And it's just amazing how much I've changed even in the last month wrapping up this book stuff. I've changed. So I'm not the person I was 6 months ago, not even 3 months ago,
nope.
And not even 3 weeks ago. It's just amazing.
And
I know it's
not even close. And they're showing for you, too. They're so proud of you. But also, now that you gave birth to this creation and it's going to serve you and grow, now it's out there and it's of ownership kind of to the world. And they want you to just send it love and light when you think about it, but have no expectations. And whatever happens from it will be a benefit because you're going to be birthing newer, even more creations. You're already starting to get downloads for that. So they're saying each time you give birth to one of these new creative babies, send it love, wish it its best, always give it nurturing, but then make space for the next thing coming in. And if you need to, take some time. You pulled that hermit card to just be by yourself or to tune in with nature or whatever it is you need to do when you get a little overwhelmed because you will get busy and a little overwhelmed. So it's important at that time to say, okay, it's all right that I'm overwhelmed right now, and I'm going to take this time to myself so I can be better and stronger than ever.
Absolutely, and yoga really helps me with that. Even just with this book, I had no life basically. The summer came and left, and I never saw daylight, and it went in a good way. But yoga really helped me just get through, like you said, like centering, grounding, doing what I have to do to get through the overwhelm. I get overwhelmed easily. So that makes a lot of sense. For sure.
Yep. And for you and our listeners, when that happens, my favorite tool is just take a few deep breaths and then go over 10 things you're grateful for in the moment. It refocuses our attention from what was ever creating the overwhelm or the anxiety, and then it recalibrates and opens up all of our chakras and reopens our heart chakra for abundance. When we're in any sense of overwhelm, the universe is like, oh man, I'd love to give you this book deal, or I'd love to give you this new soul sister, but I can't because you're overwhelmed and it's me you're not able to receive. So as soon as we can open that back up into peace, love, joy, contentment, then we can receive. And they're just bowing to you, and they're so proud of you for all the work that you've done, and you're going to continue to do. Take such good care of yourself, sister.
Thank you so much, both of you. What a wonderful talk we've all of us had. I just think my heart is so full. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Our honor.
Welcome.
Have a great night. Thanks for calling.
Thank you. Take care.
I absolutely loved her. I really seriously did.
Right? She warmed my heart, too. I think all the listeners could feel it as well. It's so nice when you feel someone get a win and you feel things be in alignment after struggle, because none of us pick an easy path, and it, takes a lot of work and persistence and showing up with heart. But when, you get a win, it feels really nice.
Yes, it does. And those are kind of the people that you want in your tribe, the people who kind of celebrate with you and are like, yes, do this, instead of the people who are like, yeah, okay. So, it's very important who you allow in your circle, especially if you are the empath, because if you feel other people's fear and doubts and all that other toxic energy regarding your wins, then you're going to absorb that as well, which is a completely different, well, actually, it's really not a completely different topic. We are talking about empaths. So, that's also something. Is it your doubt or is it somebody else's doubt? Is it your fear or somebody else's fear? And it's just understanding where your lines are and where other people are. So.
Yeah, and I feel like in the stage that I'm at, too, it's this constant, one foot in, like, the 3D, 1 foot in the 5D, 1 foot in this, like, making decisions based on what other people think or might think or what society thinks, and then this other part of, like, freedom and, like, hey, whatever I choose for me is going to be for the greatest outcome of everyone. Either I'm going to learn a lesson or I'm going to have a reward and feel good right now. And life is constantly growing. So I just try to encourage myself and others just to tune into their heart and make sure, am I doing this out of the goodness of my heart? Does this feel like what's best for me? Is it going to cause intentional harm to someone else? Like, if it's not causing intentional harm to someone else, then that's okay. And that can get a little blurred, right, especially with empaths. Like, think about an empath who's maybe, we'll just use an example, like a female empath who might be like, 17, 18, 19, trying to get ready to leave the nest, but, has always been there for her mom or her dad or, someone that they love, and is afraid to make decisions based on what's best for her, whereas her heart's calling, oh, I want to go to art school and I want to be an artist, and that feels so amazing, but I can't go too far from home because my family really needs me. Well, maybe by, her following what her heart is calling for most, and going to art school, she'll get the opportunity to open up her heart and learn a ton more and be in her creative space. And like her parents or whoever was more codependent might get the opportunity to become more independent or resilient or find out that they're a lot stronger than they thought, So that's one of those things where like the daughter in that situation might be like, oh, I feel like I'm causing intentional harm because I know if I leave, my mom or my dad's heart might break. But at the same time, my heart's going to break because I'm not answering a calling. So that's why we say, it's very, back and forth, and it's all about choosing your heart and making decisions based on what your heart wants most and, being aware of others, but also being aware of whether or not it's going to physically, intentionally harm someone or if that's just their reaction because there's an attachment.
Yes. Yes. So, like, back to, did you have other traits that you wanted to share? Because I think that's where we were before we were getting to the caller. We were talking about traits of the narcissist that you kind of looked up and you wanted to talk about. Did you have any more that you wanted to discuss?
Well, yeah, actually I'll just read. There's like a list here. One of, like it says, having an exaggerated sense of self-importance. I think, there is beauty in being humble, and I think there is beauty in, like, being confident, and this is what I do, and this is who I am. But, yeah, exaggerating all the time can be a little narcissistic. There's having a sense of entitlement and requiring constant excessive admiration. That is, I think, a very narcissistic quality and tendency. And sometimes we'll see that in empaths who are wounded, like they need that constant affirmation, or they need to be in partnerships where they have someone who's constantly talking to them or with them and reassuring them that they're beautiful and they're okay and they're making the right decisions and all of these things, I think, or making sure that they're constantly being told they're beautiful or they're special or things like that can be a sign that there's something a little unhealed within you. Needs to exaggerate.
I have to laugh. I feel like you just broke
talent.
a lot of people's hearts.
Yeah,
Sorry
did
to interrupt you. I'm like, there's a lot of listeners out there going, oh, crap.
Yeah, but it's okay, and we deserve and need compliments. Don't get me wrong out there. But if we are constantly needing it because we don't believe it ourselves, if we only believe we're beautiful if someone else tells us that, it should be like if someone tells you you're beautiful. Yeah, I am. Thanks. I really feel beautiful today. I appreciate you noticing, as opposed to like, oh, thank God they think I'm beautiful because I'm not, and this hair's out of place and this and that kind of thing. It's about learning to receive this energy and like starting to truly feel like you're in love with yourself in a worthy way, not so much in a needy way, whereas we are talking about a narcissistic way, or in a sense of like feeling really entitled.
Yes.
And then, here's a good one. Narcissists tend to monopolize conversations, belittle or look down on people they perceive as inferior. I think that, and then another one says they believe that they are superior and they can only associate with equally special people. I think people who feel like they're better than others definitely have narcissistic qualities, but then that can be argued too because we're constantly telling empaths, don't spend time around people who disrupt your energy and all of this. So it is important to find, energetic matches, and you are not for everyone. But if, you're in a relationship with someone who's constantly looking down on you or belittling you, or you're seeing them do that to others, and that part's starting to suck your energy, then that might be something not in alignment. And you just simply say like, I want to step away from this relationship, or I don't want to spend as much time with it. And, and like, I might be like, oh, I'd much rather hang out with my friend Crystal here on, radical spirituality than have a conversation with my, grandmother who might be like really mean and cruel to me for an hour. Like, it makes perfect sense to pick and choose. But when you have this sense of entitlement or superiority to others, instead of just saying, hey, they do that thing, and I do this thing, if you're like, ugh, I'm better than them, then that can be a little narcissistic. So I enjoy this conversation because it's about a balance of qualities and where your perception's coming from, as opposed to just labeling someone as that's completely what they are. Because it's about, it comes down to being insecure too. Narcissists are incredibly insecure at the core because they didn't have a secure attachment most likely when they were in their first year of life. So there's a whole lot that goes into it, and some people argue that narcissists can heal and some people argue that they can't. I watch people heal narcissistic qualities all the time, but I do see people who have been narcissists their whole life. It's very much up to that soul. And you are always a sovereign being and get to choose who you want in your energy field at that time, unless you're a child and you're unable to at that time, which is still part of your life story. It sucks. None of us wanted to go through that consciously, but there's always a gift in those lessons later on. And so it is very important to just be mindful of what feels best to you at that time. And like our beautiful listener, just called in Amalia, I think she said her name was. But, how she talked about, I lost it, I think. But I think she was talking about, how she changes, every 5 minutes. And she's not the same person she was. We always do. And that's where it's important to also love in a sense of unattachment too. Like, wow, like this relationship's amazing. I'm someone who's been lucky enough to live in a lot of places. I got to go to lots of different schools and I had like a best friend every chapter. Like I'm that woman in that movie, like I'm not married yet, but if and when I do, like I'm going to have like a bazillion bridesmaids because I like had a best friend everywhere I got to live. then, but then it faded out and I moved and it was over. And it's like we keep in touch. It's not the same as when I was there at that time. But then I got to move on to a new amazing friendship and relationship. And I still keep in touch with them. Things shift and move and grow with us. That's why a lot of people find their soul tribe once they become parents often. And like, they'll be like, oh yeah, I made best friends with like Susie, who we were taking our kids to karate every night. And like, wow, she was really great. And someone I needed to talk to at that time. Or a coworker, the people who are meant for us find us at the times that they're supposed to. I truly believe.
Exactly. So like, it's funny because when you were talking about, oh, Lord, I can't even remember what it was, but pretty much you touched on a couple things like attachment and stuff like that. And I believe that like when this, and I feel like whenever you find something in a spiritual practice that you don't agree with, there's probably part of it that you need to fix yourself, I guess. It's kind of like, finding an essential oil and you're like, ugh, I hate the smell of this. And they say the ones that you don't like, you actually need. So I feel like this is kind of the same thing. Yes. So like, when I first heard of detachment, okay, so I'm actually going to go back a little bit. When I was with my ex-husband, my second ex-husband, I made a rule. Actually, I made a pact with myself because I sat down one night and I was like in tears because he had a way of like just ignoring me completely. And I needed to learn how to grow and love myself. And so I was a very needy person. This was part of that narcissistic behavior that I really wanted to kind of attend to, I guess, within myself. And I said, okay, universe, he's not my Mr. Forever. He's my Mr. Right now. And so I want to spend however long you guys keep me with him because I knew that they weren't lending me or leading me to divorce him in that moment. To divorce him in that moment would have been way too hasty because I wouldn't have learned anything about myself. And so I took the next 3 years. I literally did this in the beginning of our relationship, which is really sad, but it was awesome also. And I said, look, teach me what I need to learn about myself and talk to me throughout the process. And so every time there was an issue or anything was happening, instead of losing control, I guess, instead of making everything a him versus me, I would always try to make it, I understand, I see, I get where you're coming from, I understand how you feel. And in that also, there were a lot of other little things that I learned, and that was boundaries for myself. You're not going to talk to me like that. I understand that you may be frustrated right now, but that is not how you will address me. And there were all these things that I started to learn about myself. And you touched on attachment, or I'm going to say detachment in relationships. I feel like that's really important because when we're attached to people for the wrong reasons based on our empathic upbringing, we tend to need people around us to fill voids that we can't fill for ourselves. And so addressing and understanding, like if I were needy with Ben, okay, I can sit there and I can look at him and I can say, okay, I'm having a needy day today and these are the reasons why I'm needy. None of these things are your problem. I understand none of these things are your problem, but I need a little bit more love today than what I do any other day. And so he kind of plays with that a little bit. And so I'm able to now in a relationship with him, I'm able to sit down, and if I'm having issues with myself and my own healing, like with self-love and how I look, and I'm like, oh, I'm having a bad day, or I'm stupid, or I feel like I'm a failure in all these aspects. And he does something to trigger, because I'm a firm believer, and we can't control how other people are going to trigger us. That's what we're supposed to be learning. So if he triggers me in a way, I sit down and I look at him and I say, okay, I understand this is not a you problem. This is a me problem. And I understand that this is, something that I need to learn. But at the same time, I'm going to point out to you what it was that caused me to react this way. I'm going to sit down with you and I'm going to tell you I'm sorry, because this was not your problem. This was not you. This was all about me. And this, and this are the reasons why I reacted the way that I did. And I will try not to react that way again. And I sit down and I'm very honest with him, with my growth in the moment, and taking responsibility for my own actions and reactions, because it's part of the healing process. You can't just fly off the handle with somebody and be like, well, they caused me to be this way because they did this. No, that's you not healing. That's you not being honest with yourself, because nobody can cause us to react in a way that we don't want to react. So something in you was broken in a sense to make that reaction what you chose to do. And so one of the things that I had to learn was after 28, 30 years of being hurt and manipulated was not to try to hurt people the same way they hurt me. And when you are in abusive relationships over and over and over again, you tend to get a little bit more broken and a little bit more lost and a little bit more hate for yourself. And so in all these situations, when people would start to act a certain way, then all of a sudden I would become this tyrant in the relationship because I wanted to hurt them the same way they hurt me. And that was something I had to unlearn, and it was something that I had to see in myself in the moment, because I had to understand that them doing whatever they did has nothing to do with me. And that's really hard for us, I think, as humans sometimes to understand. So even if you're dealing with somebody who may have like these disorders or, mental disturbances in their life, whatever, it doesn't matter, because that's not about you. That's about them, and that's about what they need to fix. But also, if you're bringing it into your life, then you need to take that step back and understand what it was about you that said, I need this in my life. And so it's just it's another step towards that reflection. And also, I'm just going to throw it out there, and I don't trust anything really I see on the internet when it comes to like tests and all that other stuff. But I am going to put this out there. Like, I took all sorts of stupid tests for myself when we came to do this. Like, I took behavioral tests online, and I also took like a narcissistic test online. And there were so many traits that in carried. I was like terrified. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a sociopath. And it was in seeing those things and it being reality that it helped me go forward, because I feel like sometimes we have to kind of have things punch us in the gut to move forward in a way that helps us heal. And sometimes we have to have somebody in our lives tell us, you know what, you're the jerk. Sorry, but you're the jerk. And you're the one acting irrational right now, not them. And I think it's kind of good for what you were just talking about, and that's that balance. I think we need to have that, and everybody in our lives, whether we say it softly or we don't say it softly, we have to have somebody in our lives to hold us accountable if we're not going to be accountable to ourselves. And I think that that's a lot of what we're seeing right now in the universe as a whole. We have a whole lot of people holding us accountable for what we don't want to see in ourselves. And so that's where you get that blame and that unbalance or imbalance that's taking place, because everybody wants to place blame on everybody else, and it's this situation and it's that situation, instead of focusing inward and saying, okay, what do I contribute to this problem and why is it frustrating me? We tend to blame everybody else, and we blame society. And, we are a part of society, and so what are we putting on the table? What can we do in our daily lives to change what it is that we see outward? Because Spirit has taught me that if I change and I work on myself and I heal myself, then in that I will also show my son to heal, and whoever I bring in my life will heal, and all of these things. And that essentially is how we change the world as a whole. So you might be, over there in New York, and I'm over here in Charlotte, but at the same time, you working with your clients and yourself, and me working with my clients and myself, essentially it's this ripple effect that takes place. And for one person that takes that out in their life and carries that and works on it and grows from that, that's another person that's taking that and growing and growing and growing. And that's what we're trying to build. And so to sit here and look at all the negative aspects in every person and all their personality traits, it's not doing anything to fix the actual problem. And really we have to start looking inward at us, because at some place at some level, we are the problem. And I think that that's important for the growth and spiritual movement that we're seeing today, is self-reflection.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And that's where the magic happens. That's where the changes happen. It's when we're being triggered and we're saying, okay, I'm being triggered. And instead of automatically blaming the other person, well, you did this and this happened and that's what caused it, saying, what in me cares, about this? What in me, allows myself to be hurt or triggered by this? What in me can't see that the other person is maybe sad or angry or projecting on me? There's certain things I think triggers are not only meant to heal us, but Jake, for instance, if we're looking at the collective right now, we have a really big talk going on about the environment and climate change. And we've got little Greta Thunberg out there. I don't know if she's reincarnated Joan of Arc or what, but she is on a mission and it's triggering people left and right, and for some of us, who are empaths and, elementals and fairies and all these people who came to help, like it's probably supposed to trigger something within us because we're supposed to be protecting Mother Earth on a certain level. So it all depends on your path and what it is you're choosing to do right now. And sometimes, triggers can be a good thing because it's showing an opportunity to heal. So, if we're really triggered because there's female circumcision happening in Africa, it's because we want it to be healed, And so I think if we allow ourselves to take anything that's causing a trigger to be an opportunity to heal or an opportunity to love ourselves or others in a deeper capacity, that is what's going to change. And it's simply, leading by example and being the change you wish to see in the world. It's like, all right, I can sit here and waste my energy arguing, or I can go outside and pick up some trash, or I can cut this apple in half that I just had for a snack and go plant all the seeds on the side of the road and see what happens, because maybe it'll help one day. It's all of these little tiny decisions that we make in response to what our triggers are telling us that I think are the opportunity for growth, healing, and freedom.
So we only have like 4 minutes left, and I'm going to ask you really quick because you just brought up something that people have asked me before. What do you think, like with people who, you're passionate about something, like there's a lot of people passionate about Trump. There's a lot of people passionate about global warming and stuff like that. But what is your take? I mean, like those same people, what is your take on the people who take that like one step further and start being angry and vile and stuff like that, but they're saying, oh yeah, but I'm doing this because of this reason. What is your take on that? Because I feel like that's just using that situation as a scapegoat to be an ugly person. Because I truthfully feel like everything we do needs to be done with love, acceptance, and understanding towards different perspectives.
I agree. You're stepping into the abuser. You're stepping into being the narcissist. You're stepping into saying, oh, it's okay that you're shitting on the earth, so I'm going to, do this to you. Like it's that need for revenge, which is showing that you're more caught up in your ego and the attachment as opposed to the unattachment and the love and the wanting to create healing. So, yeah, sometimes it can be, people, I watch it every day. We all watch it every day. Wherever you're commuting to, we watch people with road rage, taking shit out on everyone else that, doesn't belong to them. I'm just driving along with my dogs on the way to the dog park, and somebody's got to, like, fly by me and flip me off because I'm going only, like, 5 miles over the speed limit, like, weird things. And you're like, okay, like, I could take that personally and let this get me upset, and I could, speed up and ram them, or I could just say, wow, man, wish you some love and light so that you don't go, hurt an animal or yourself or someone else, and I hope your day gets better. Or we can internalize it and get angry. So it's all these little tiny steps all the time that get to choose. But I do agree that, no, that's considered abusive behavior if you're doing something that causes intentional harm to someone else out of a reaction. I don't believe in getting even. As someone who does readings all the time, I can't tell you how many women come to me and be like, oh, can I have a spell? Can I have, this to get revenge on that? Or how do I get this? And I'm like, go to hot yoga, watch The Secret, take a walk, do some meditation. I don't subscribe to that energy because it doesn't work.
No, you can't. And see, it's one of those things, like I said in the very beginning, it's like one of my biggest triggers is hypocrites or hypocritical energy. And so when you have somebody calling you out because they don't agree with what it is that you do, and then you're like, okay, wait, you're commenting on my stuff, or you're talking to me, you're calling me out. I'm not doing the same to you, but you're telling me it's in the name of this, or it's in the name of this, and because it's for what you believe in, it's better, or it's this. And I'm just like, that's the same energy. If you can't see that, you're literally putting out the same energy that you're telling me you're working against. And it's just sometimes it is frustrating, I feel like. And you have to step back and just be like, it is what it is. And so when it comes to Facebook, I'm just going to say, I feel like Facebook is like the worst thing for us, but we only have we literally have a minute left. Mandee, how can people reach you?
Yes. You can reach me on Facebook / The Alchemy Sisters, or my own Facebook, Mandee, Mandee ELam. If you'd like to book a session with me, email heartoverego@gmail.com or send me a message on Facebook, and I'd love to connect. And I love holding space here with you every week here on Radical Spirituality on our Heart Over Ego Network. Thank you so much, Crystal.
Thank you so much. And if you want to contact me, I am Crystal Jordan. You can find me at Mid Mitten Medium, and you can pretty much find me anywhere by that name. So if you want to look up my website, it is midmittenmedium.com. And if you want to find me on Facebook, it is also Mid Mitten Medium. Thank you all so very much for holding space with Mandee and I tonight. It was a wonderful topic. I'm so grateful to you, Mandee, for being able to talk to you about it. I feel like it's something we all need to learn. And thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night.
Thank you, and thank you to our listeners. All of my love, light, and happiest wishes for everyone's highest good.
Yes, thank you. You have a great night. Bye.